Good morning. We're the Action Group, Voice of Climate Change, and we have been asked to provide you with information on climate change and discuss its potential to alter the things we see all around us every day. I'm Connor McCann, and along with my team, I'd like to take a moment to share the potential positive and negative effects that climate change may have on this planet. Moreover, we would like to share what we are doing to mitigate our contributions to climate change in ways that you can too. Now, you might be asking yourself, what is climate change? Climate change is best defined as the shift in patterns of temperature, precipitation, severe weather events, and changing atmospheric and terrestrial conditions. Its effect is highly variable from region to region. Now you're wondering, what causes climate change? Factors such as industrial pollution, burning fossil fuels, deforestation, and the like have contributed to the accumulation of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. This in turn has led to global warming, destruction of the ozone layer, ocean acidification, and many more. This presentation will focus on global warming, but we will touch upon other subjects as well.
Climate change has a variety of effects on the environment worldwide. On the negative side, variations in water levels may occur as rainfall either increases or decreases. Changes in water levels can alter the pH of the water and affect dissolved oxygen rates. On the other hand, as higher temperatures become more common in the north, melting ice provides more open fisheries and higher fish diversity. Now I'm going to focus on one global effect of climate change, ocean acidification. As increased amounts of carbon dioxide dissolve into the ocean, they bond with hydrogen atoms to form carbonic acid. This decreases the pH of the water and can slow the formation of calcium carbonate skeletons of the coral reefs. Considering that the coral reefs are major diversity hotspots and provide flood control, this may provide detrimental to ocean ecosystems. On the local scale, excessive rainfall results in large amounts of runoff that have come in contact with Pennsylvania mines. The exposed metals in the mines bond with the water, making it very acidic. This acid mine drainage can make its way into our waterways, lowering water pH. Fish such as the brook trout, our beloved state fish, are very sensitive to such changes, as they are niche specialists and may be wiped out by even slightest water changes. My personal action is reducing device charging time. The benefits of this are overheating of my laptop and charging cord would be reduced, cut back on my carbon footprint as I use less energy, which the production of vast amounts of fossil fuels and greenhouse gas emissions. But some barriers that may occur are remembering when to plug and unplug my devices may prove as an obstacle.
I will be talking about some positive and negative impacts of global warming on forestry. Some of the significant negative impacts include wildfires, the alteration of plant and animal populations, and according to flora and fauna, tulips are one of the many plant species that are harmed by global warming, as their stationary state prevents them from migrating to cooler temperatures. Some positive impacts are that plants become more drought resistant, and some frozen areas of the world have an increase of growth due to the warming climate. On a global perspective, I will be talking about forest fires. As the climate increases, more wildfires will be started, which eventually leads to deforestation. These forests then also release more carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. Statistics proven by the US EPA show that approximately 70,000 wildfires spread each year globally. The fast-moving spread of the fires also allows for larger amounts of forest areas to be decimated at once. Specifically targeting PA, global warming has many effects on the invasive species population. Forest pathogens are able to damage forests due to the increase in temperatures and their fast spreading rates. The emerald ash borer, for example, is an invasive species that lives in Pennsylvania due to the rapid temperature increase that they find favorable. Statistics show that about 50 million ash trees have been destroyed by the ash borer and are projected to lose about 250 million more. Now for my personal action plan. I plan to be cognizant of skin and hair products. For starters, I will not purchase any products that have high levels of dangerous chemicals to the environment, such as parabens. Some benefits to this are the reduction of chemical emission and potential healthier skin and hair. Some barriers to this include the fact that almost all hair products have some sort of harmful chemical in them. Another barrier is that the shampoo that works best for me contains parabens and other chemicals.
Alright, I'll take it from here and discuss the ways in which climate change is changing our soils. As the atmosphere warms, evaporation increases, which removes moisture from the soil. Drier soil particles are more susceptible to wind erosion and rain erosion as more intense storms are caused by increased water vapor accumulation in the atmosphere. Briefly, this disturbs the soil and kills the organisms that live in it. Additionally, melting ice caps lead to rising sea levels that can then creep further inland, creating salty soils. Warming temperatures can also result in more frequent droughts and heat waves for some areas, increasing the need for irrigation. But since drier soils are generally have a lower permeability, waterlogging is likely to occur in these areas. All these conditions contribute to decreased soil productivity, rendering them unconducive for human agriculture. Globally, I'll focus on desertification. We've already discussed how soils lose more moisture through increased evaporation. As plants in the soil lose water, they stop photosynthesizing. This means that they are respiring more carbon than they are absorbing, making them a carbon source. As carbon is removed from the soil, the ability of vegetation to grow is reduced. Since vegetation contributes to organic matter, less of it means less soil organic matter. Overall, as a result, soils will become unproductive and infertile. This effect is most prominent in the Mediterranean, as shown by this diagram. As we've already discussed, warmer oceans lead to more evaporation, which then leads to more water vapor, which then culminates in more intense storms. According to the Pennsylvania Department of Education, in their article, Climate Change in PA, between 1958 and 2010, there was a 70% increase in the amount of very heavy precipitation events in the northeast U.S. So you're wondering what the big problem is? Heavy rainfall dislodges soil particles that can then fill in pore space, which reduces root and water penetration potential. It also removes soil organic matter, organisms, and aggregates. So how am I planning on reducing this effect? Well, I'm going to use cold water over hot water for my laundry. Using cold water reduces the heat energy required, which means that less harmful pollutants will be released during the production of energy. This will help slow down the warming of the earth and the destruction of the ozone layer. Now the problem with this is that warm water is more efficient at getting stains out than cold water, which means that I may need to switch to a harsher detergent, which could contain nutrients that will make their way into the water cycle and harm our waterways.
As for wildlife, there are many significant effects. Mating times and shelter are both very dependent on season and temperature. Climate change can also cause a disruption of a habitat, such as floods, droughts, and lack of snowfall. These cases, at worst, can lead to extinction, but more often will cause migration and an introduction of alien species into the food web, which usually destroys the ecosystem. On the topic of migration of species, according to the Canadian National Collaborating Centre for Environmental Health, climate change has drastically increased the range of ticks because winters are shorter and less cold. This is significant because large animals, such as the moose, are extremely vulnerable to these parasites. From this graph by the Canadian government, surveillancing the cases of Lyme disease in humans, we can infer that the population of ticks is increasing dramatically. You can only imagine what this will do to moose, as thousands of these insects gather on a single animal, one of which will kill it with a disease. In Pennsylvania, the majority of climate change impact is that of habitat loss, which harms many of the state's wildlife, including the state bird itself. Typically, the ruffed grouse will dig tunnels under the snow in winter, which keeps them warm and protects them from predators. With the lack of snowfall due to climate change, we can envision PA without this animal because of starvation, predation, or migration northwards. My personal action to preserve the environment is avoiding personal vehicles and automobile transportation, as it is responsible for 29% of the US greenhouse gas emissions. The barriers to this is that walking or biking takes way too long.
My personal action would be cutting back on harmful food products. Some foods are more demanding on the environment than others. A benefit to this would be that help cutting back on a large portion of the methane gas emissions, since 50% come from the agricultural industry. A product like beef that comes from a cow would be beneficial to cut back on due to each cow producing around 220 pounds of methane gas a year. A barrier to this would be that most of the foods that are worse for the environment are meats and dairies, products which are easy source of essential human nutrients. Fresh vegetables and vegan foods are often more expensive also. After hearing all the effects that climate change may have on the world around us, we hope that you are inspired to take action in your community in order to reduce your contributions to it. Thank you for listening.